Speaker of the day, Diane M Conn has been photographing both relatives and strangers ever since she took her first Kodak Instamatic 124 on family trips as a child. And yet it was a candid picture that someone took of her, properly speaking, of her and her new husband, taken from behind on their wedding day, that first helped Diane realize just how fascinating it is to watch people holding hands. Now, this discovery led her on a years-long project to photograph people in all life stages, in all walks of life, and in many parts of the world, all united by the simple act of holding hands. Her first photo book, Holding Hands, is the result of that adventure. In working on the book and going over and over thousands of photos, Diane realized that she felt better in every sense, every time she spent time looking at the photos. Having dealt with depression for years and noticing this result of feeling better, she wondered if the book could help others as well. A portion of the proceeds from the sale of this book will support the Hope for Depression Research Foundation. Diane lives in New York City and Los Angeles. We are very, very grateful to have her with us today. Here is Diane.
Good morning, everybody. Hi, my name's Diane Conn. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, family and friends, and everybody else who showed up. I love the beginning. I love the introduction. They told me I could say hello, ham, and that would mean something to the regulars here. And I'm really glad to be here. I'm going to start by talking about what happened, how this came to be, and where I am now. And thinking back to this little inspirational talk we just heard, thank you. It reminded me, we don't know what's going to happen during the year. And a year ago, if somebody had said to me, you know, you're going to finish your book and publish it this year, I would have said, I don't think so. That's not my plan. That's not in the cards. And it's a year later, and here we are. So I'm going to talk to you about how that happened. My plan is to talk for about 20 minutes and then to open the floor to questions, should anybody have any. So I am going to start by, let me just warn you that I have never screen shared in my life. However, I did practice a little bit yesterday. So here we go. I got this already described Kodak Instamatic 124 when I was about 12 years old, and I received it as a prize, third prize, I might add, for selling raffle tickets at the Winter Carnival in Richmond Regional High School near my hometown of Asbestos, Quebec, which is where I grew up. And this first picture was one of the first year's ones I took with this Kodak Instamatic. This is my parents holding hands, looking face to the camera, standing near the hedge in our backyard, which I thought was a great place to set a photo. And they're holding hands, they're together, they're very connected. I'm one of 5 siblings of these 2 parents. And 5 years after this photo was taken, my mother died of depression by suicide. And it left a huge hole in my life. And I'm very grateful that my mother taught us, the 5 of us, to be close together. And here are the siblings in age order, actually, from oldest on the left to youngest on the right. I'm second from the right, and I am also the shrimp of the 5 of us. We also have stayed connected and stayed close and have always been in touch and are each other's best friends. And now with Zoom, we talk and see each other all the time. And several of my siblings are on the call today, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to really fast forward from here. I kept taking pictures over the years with that same little camera. I eventually got a point and shoot camera, and I took pictures of scenes and people and lakes and whatnot. And I met a man and had a date, and 6 weeks later moved in. And in 2005, I got married to Mace. This picture is my husband. And this is typical wedding photo that was taken at the Bel Air Hotel here where we got married. I love the photo. It's framed, it's on my desk, and it reminds me of that beautiful day. At the same time, on the same day, this photo was taken. And this is the two of us standing at the altar, taken from behind by the photographer. I didn't know it was being taken. And when I saw it I can remember getting a huge pile of wedding photos. I looked at this one, and that is my favorite photo from the wedding. You don't know who the couple is. You don't have any idea what they look like. But what really speaks to me is the connection of these two people. I happened to be in the photo, but just looking at this picture, even if I cropped it and just saw the hands, I feel that connection when I look at it still. And if I had to grab one photo from the wedding, it would be this one. And that really spoke to me. And I never forgot that idea, that connection meant something to me. It also reminded me that I used to hold hands with my mother, who had a wonderful, warm hand to hold, firm and strong. And I started paying more attention in my photos to people from behind. My husband was a photographer as a very first career long ago, and moved into film production and is a producer. But for years he took photos, and he is a one-shot photo guy, and I am not. He saw the photo in anything, and it's a wonderful talent. And as a teenager, he was second in the Pulitzers for photography, and that eye has obviously stayed with him his whole life. The other thing that was really important to me about starting to look at photos was starting to feel what it was I was looking at. And I discovered that with a camera, I could actually get fairly close to people. I could follow along behind them. They did not know I was there. Once out of 10,000 photos has somebody known I was behind them. So I don't have a perfect record, but close. And I took pictures, and I kept taking pictures, and I kept noticing that when I got home and looked at these photos, I felt better. Initially, I had tried taking photos with a Lumix camera, this kind of point and shoot old fashioned camera that my husband got me, like a lens for people who know those things. And I discovered that trying to walk along behind people and take photos of them and move while they were moving was impossible to do, because I couldn't do it all. I couldn't focus. I couldn't follow. I couldn't look at them. I couldn't get their hands, and it just didn't work. So I ended up using my iPhone to take photos, which has some limitations, but much more in the way of positives than not. So I'm going to jump to the cover of the book so you can see, this is sort of what the inside of my head looked like, actually. Photo, 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 photo. So this is the cover of the book, and they're all close-up shots of people holding hands. This came about after the book was done, but I'm going to show it to you because it'll sort of jump you into the feeling of this connection. I find when I look at these photos, I feel them. And I took a fair amount of time figuring out what is the story of telling people's photos. I was aware that I felt better when I looked at the photos. And I say felt better because I too, like my mother, suffered major depressive disorder and had long episodes of difficulty being engaged in the world. But I always was willing to take a photo. And that turned out to be a real lifesaver for me. So being out in the street with my phone, taking pictures, coming home, looking at these photos and discovering that I felt better was unbelievable to me, because I really felt as if I had found my own little addition to my toolkit of possibilities, because I don't give up easily. I might be the last one across the finish line, but I get there. And this is one more thing that can help me keep going. And if you look closely at these photos, starting on at the upper left-hand corner, it's a young little child. And if you follow along the photos from left to right over the rows, you'll see that the people are getting older, the hands are getting older. And by the bottom row and the right-hand side, that's an older, in what I call the together section of my book, that's the oldest couple is down in the bottom right-hand corner. And that ended up being the theme of the book is the cycle of life. And that's something that really speaks to me, because when babies are born, they talk about the grasp reflex, where the infant grabs onto somebody's hand. And all of these photos, as you can see, are people holding hands, and we hold hands throughout life, whether it's with a friend, a parent, a child, a lover, a colleague, a new friend, a sibling. We shake hands. I understand your special wiggle waggle handshake you have. The hand of friendship is really important in the Breakfast Club. And, you know, introducing to people, certainly we used to always shake hands, now it's elbows, but the idea is to touch and connect with somebody. And that is so much about what this book is about. I'm going to take you through a couple of photos from each section. And the very first section is called Childhood. I didn't want too many sections. I wanted people to really be able to experience the book as they went through it. I had started on the side choosing quotes because I thought a book should have some quotes. So I have quotes going. I'm taking pictures. I do not know how to put a book together. I tried myself, and it was quite a disaster because I like overstimulation. So my photos were smashed up against each other and there was no room to breathe. So after several false starts, I found the most amazing photo editor, Paul Gonzalez, who I handed all these thousands of photos over to, and I said, here's the photos. I'd like 3 sections, and that's about all I know. And I'd like holding hands over the course of life to be the theme, and connection to be the theme, and take it away, Paul. And he did. And believe it or not, I had no say in what photos went in the book, what order the photos went in, other than the sections. I handed it over to him because what it turns out I'm good at is taking the photos. I'm not afraid to get close. Watching Mace, my husband, take photos for years, I observed more than I thought I did, and I learned so much. So I'm going to start in the first section and show you this photo. This is the very first photo in the book. It's in Mexico City. We're having, as often happened, we're eating at a restaurant in this square. I see this girl on the left run over to the girl on the right and grab her hand. I excuse myself from the table. Just a second, watch my stuff is my usual line. Jump up, run along behind the girls, take a couple of photos. And this one is cropped in the book. But I love that they're connected. You can see them. It looks like she's saying, come play with me. And that to me was really special, and one of the many joyous moments I had in looking at these photos. The next photo in the child section is walking up 3rd Avenue in New York, behind this maybe dad with his son. It's windy, which you don't know here, but that tiger balloon is going all over the place, and it's usually in front of the guy or underneath the knapsack. And I just kept walking a block and a half behind him. And the reason I love this photo is, first, there's nobody else around, which I learned really focuses on what's going on. You can see the holding hands. And the dad has also got the balloon and what I assume is the kid's knapsack. So there's a couple of things going on here. We've got the balloon trying to keep it handy. We've got the knapsack and holding the kid's hand. And that to me is often what goes on with holding hands. People are doing more than one thing when they're holding hands. As you will see in this next photo, which is the last photo in the childhood section. I was walking through Central Park following this. I saw this kid with a baseball holding hands with mother, aunt, sister, guardian, somebody. And he starts throwing the baseball up and catching it in one hand, which that in itself I thought was amazing. And then I realized, well, he's doing that while he's walking and he's holding somebody's hand. So I followed along behind him. I have a bunch of photos of him throwing that baseball up, and you can't see it, but at this point, he happened to pass by this tree. And as you can see, the ball's up in the air and he's looking at it and walking along. And I just love it because it's once again, several things are happening in the photo. And that is the end of the childhood section. The next section I decided to call Love. And the first photo in here is this is a couple on the beach in LA. And I did really try to vary the photos, vary the people, vary what's going on. And 1 second here, I will find it. As I said, this is my first screen sharing. Here's the photo. We have a couple on the beach. There's nobody around. Don't think that this happens often. I mean, there's usually people everywhere in the photos I'm taking. So there's nobody around here. But if you look closely at the photo, you'll see there's two people, there's two shadows, there's two clouds in the sky, there's two palm trees at the front, there's two people riding bikes on the right-hand side on the bike path. So I felt there was this wonderful symmetry in this photo with that blue sky. And those of you who've been out to Santa Monica and the beach, that's the ocean out there, Catalina Islands in the distance. And I just thought it was a breathing photo, an open photo, and that there is room to look around beyond the figures in the photo. The next one is very much a close-up. This is in the Whitney Museum in New York. And what's really exciting about this photo to me is that there's windows behind me and there's light inside on the subjects. I have so many photos I've taken in museums. You can't see anything because the focus is all on the art, as it should be, the sculpture, the art, the paintings, the drawings, the costumes, whatever it is. And you can't get enough light on people. So here we have a couple looking at a painting. They have similar focus. They both look engaged. Their hands are really connected. Their jackets are the same length, and there's such symmetry in it. I just loved it. The thinking about quotes also as I took the photos, I asked friends for their quotes. I asked people what they thought would be a good quote. And so many people gave me their own quotes. They sent me their own quotes, and half the quotes in the book are from people I know. This is a photo in West Hollywood. I actually, for all the times I've been walking around there, which is a lot because we're close by, I don't think I'd ever seen a couple holding hands walking across the LGBT rainbow crosswalk. And here they are. Again, this photo is cropped in the book, but they're engaged, they're talking, they're close together, their hands are holding, their feet are in symmetry, they're both about to lift their left foot. I love looking at this photo. And as when I talk about the photo, for me, this book is meant to be experienced. It's, you can sit with it, you can go through it, you can keep looking at it over and over and over. And that's really exciting to me. The final section of the book is called Together. And the first photo in the Together section is this couple walking along 14th Street in New York. Now, 14th Street is never empty. So that's why there's other people in there, but there's far fewer people than there are in the other photographs I took. I followed them a long way from Union Square over to almost 6th Avenue, which is a lot of photos. And I just love the sturdiness of the person on the left, the pink shirt, the solidity of the guy on the right. The holding hands feels very solid to me, and they're going somewhere. And once again, this is a couple I had to run up right behind them, plant myself, and then take photos as they walked away because they were moving couples. Some couples go up and down a lot when they move. And this is one of them. The next photo I love. We're in Oaxaca, Mexico in 2019. And we've just been in the town square listening to Mexican music, which is fabulous, and having drinks and snacks. And I see this couple walking along, and I jump up and I run after them. And I have a photo of them before this wall, this blue wall on the left. And as he starts walking along the wall, he starts dragging his hand along the wall like a little kid. And then at the end of the wall, there's no more wall. So I have pictures of them going into the crowd, but of all the photos, this is the one. He's touching the wall. They're connected. There's more going on than they're holding hands, and he's touching the wall. Granted, I didn't choose these photos for the book, but these come out of the 1,500 or so photos I sent to Paul, the editor, to have a look through. So each of them said something to me before I sent it to him. And the second last photo in here is this one, which is in Central Park last spring. A couple is walking through the cherry trees, blossoms, and the guy on the right has binoculars under his arm, which I don't see that often, but there's a lot of bird watching in Central Park, so I assume that's what he's doing. They're holding hands slightly weird way. She looks double jointed back there, and I'm following along behind them quite close. Now, I will say it turns out that on the left is my older sister, and beside her is her husband. I did not choose this photo to go in the book. Paul put it in there. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw it. And the photo opposite them, which I'm not showing you right now, happens to be also them. He had no idea. So two photos, you know, on the same double spread are the same two people. Only I know it, but I kind of love that that happened and the energy was there. The connection between them is obvious. The final photo in the book, and one that actually is my favorite in the book, is this one. Here we have two ladies. It just makes me want to cry every time I look at it. Two ladies, so cry in a good way, in a connected way, in a look at them way. And they're walking along. And again, you know, the symmetry between them. The canes are at the same angle. They have similar silhouettes. They're both about to pick up their left foot. And the lady on the right has her hand holding the lady on the left. Now, of all the people I've ever taken a photo of, this is the couple I want to talk to. I want to know who they are. Are they siblings? Are they friends? Are they roommates? Are they lovers? Did they go shopping together? Did they just meet at an event, at a community center? I walked along behind them. I have taken a lot of photos of older couples and couples with canes, but none of them has jumped out at me like this one did. And I'm so happy to have it here. And goodness knows, I think I would recognize them if I saw them again. I certainly hope so. And opposite that, I do want to read the quote that goes with that very last photo, because it really speaks to me. The last quote, which is across from those ladies with the canes, is, "We don't accomplish anything in this world alone, and whatever happens is the result of the whole tapestry of one's life and all the weavings of individual threads from one to another that creates something." Sandra Day O'Connor. I love the quote. I love the photo. I love looking at these pictures. I feel better every time. And the very last photo is the back cover of the book. And the reason I want to show it to you is because that's often how I feel. This is what it's like to walk behind people holding hands. You're sort of seeing what they're seeing. You're experiencing their world. And in that way, there's, I suppose, a bit of voyeurness in it. This is in Devon, in England. And we were with a British friend of ours, Caroline, and we had driven down to Devon, and we happened to pass Stonehenge. And having never been anywhere near Stonehenge, I'm seeing those rocks over there. Oh my, and pouring rain outside, rocks over there, tons of people lined up to go see them. And I'm sort of yelling, "Oh my God, it's Stonehenge. We have to go to Stonehenge." And my husband said, "We're not going to Stonehenge. It's pouring rain. We're going to Devon." So I have pictures out the car window of the pouring rain and Stonehenge. And we ended up in Devon here, and the rain stopped, and we went to the castle of somebody that had something to do with Elizabeth I. And we went outside, and I see this couple walking off on this path to somewhere. And it just is perfect for me. It's the ending of the book. And as I write on the back, this book is meant to be experienced. It is a book to have feelings about. Hopefully you'll feel better when you look at it, see where the book takes you. And I'm so happy with it. It has been such an amazing project for me. And, you know, I called it the unintentional book. I didn't intend to make it. I had all these thousands of photos, and my husband one day, I'd show them some to him, and he said, that one's good. No, 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 no. Okay. And at the end, he said, what are you going to do with all those photos? And I said, well, I don't know. They don't take up any space. And he said, well, do something with them. Or are they going to be like your postcard collection back there in the basket, which is thousands of postcards, or your bookmark collection? And I thought, you know what, let me try and do something with this. Maybe this can help other people like it's helped me. And so this book came together thanks to Paul, thanks to Cherish, who helped set everything up. Thanks to the team. Thank you, Andrew, for helping me be here. I found a great printer. I printed some copies, and it's up on Amazon. I'm thrilled about it. I love it. I'm still taking photos. I can't seem to stop, but I will stop here and say thank you so much for listening. And if anybody has any questions, I would love to take them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane. That was a wonderful presentation, so articulate and so beautiful. And it reminds me that so often the best projects come out of things that we don't intend to be commercial enterprises, but just come out of the heart. I just love those images. And before we open up for questions, I'm going to take advantage of my spot for the moment to ask, would you be so kind as to share with us one other photo, because we didn't see it? Just prior to the one of you and your husband holding hands, I believe the intention was to show a photo of the two of you facing camera. And we saw you, but we did not see the image on that one. Is that an easy share?
Oh, yeah. Now that I'm getting quite expert
now that you're a pro at this,
sharing, let me, so the one of the two of us, I think.
Yes, where you're facing.
One?
Yes, thank you.
So thank you. And I'll just say one thing about that, which is that photo, and the one before it of the 5 siblings, and the one before that of my parents. All of those are facing the camera, and all of those mean something. And I know the people in them and I love them. It's very different feeling from the intimacy from the next photo, which is Mace and I holding hands from the back, and what the rest of them are. But yes, this is the original sort of more formal, more normal wedding photo.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that and all those other beautiful images. And now, yes, let's open the floor up to Q&A. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, everyone else, but I think the policy is to just unmute yourself and to ask the question when you have one.
I had a question. What's the longest distance you followed someone for a photo?
Oh, that's really interesting. I have easily 30 photos of some couples. So I would say in New York City block terms, it's probably 3-4 blocks. Sometimes I turn a corner with them. I've actually gone into buildings behind people, but it's long enough to sort of take 30 photos. It can be, I don't know, quarter of a mile, I suppose. What often happens is I'm just trying to get the right setup with, as you can see, so many things are often going on in these photos. And sometimes I just give up because they're walking so close together. They're never going to separate enough to actually see the hands, because every single photo, I always have rules. You have to see the hands. They might be in pockets. I might have seen them put their hands together in a pocket, but if the viewer can't see it, it doesn't count.
Yeah. Thank you. Beautiful work.
Thank you.
Love the idea.
Next.
Hi. Yes, I have a question. How often did the couple understand that they were being photographed? In other words, after the photo was shot, you had a conversation, or they realized then that they'd been photographed? And how many of those have you remained in contact with?
Actually, I've never, other than one time up in Harlem, when a friend, I guess, of somebody I was following and taking pictures of, turned around and said, "Hey, she's taking your picture." And I just pretended I was looking at my camera because, I just didn't feel like the right time to have a conversation. Nobody else has ever noticed I was taking their picture, ever. So I've never spoken to them. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody will ever recognize themselves in here. I have no idea. I'm kind of curious about it. But the few people I know in there, my siblings are one of them, my sister, that's it. Other than that, I have no idea.
Very good.
Thank you.
Question.
Thank you.
I know there are more out there. There's one in the chat I just saw, which I will return to read. Did you find any scientific research about holding hands? Asks David.
Thank you for the question. It's so interesting because my brother, the one on the left in the sibling photo, my only brother, at one point I said, I was talking about holding hands, and he sent me a link to a neuroscientist at the University of Virginia by the name of Jim Cohen. And it turns out Dr. Cohen studies holding hands. That's what he does. He puts people in fMRI machines and gives them a little shock, literally, and has them holding the hand of somebody they love and holding nobody's hand. And he notices the difference in the experience of pain from much less pain when they're holding somebody's hand to more pain when they're not. Anxiety goes down, holding hands, blood pressure goes down, joy goes up, connections, feelings of connection happen. So that's my observation from looking at the photos, and that's his observation from having people in fMRI machines and looking at their brains. I got in touch with him. I sent him some photos. I sent him a copy of the book. And I asked him if there was any research on what happens to people's brains when they're looking at images of people holding hands. And he said, no, there is not. Let's collaborate. So I meant to go to University of Virginia and meet with him and talk about what we can do together. Is there some way to do some experimentation on to sort of prove my personal theory, which is that people feel better when they look at photos of people holding hands? Thanks for the question.
I have a question. I don't know if you can hear me. It's Di's sister, Jan.
Yes.
I'm curious to follow up on the previous question, not this one, but the live one. I'm wondering, Di, taking pictures anonymously puts you at a great distance from the people you're photographing. It's very much an observer's stance. Mm-hmm. Not engaged, but engaged more with your perception of them and your feelings about them rather than them as people per se. And I wonder, so I was curious about the previous question, asking if you had stayed connected with them, because I thought it was a really important one, not a criticism of you, but there must be a push-pull in you, like a really interesting tension. Because I bet that, as you said, about one of the penultimate pictures of the beautiful elderly ladies walking together, you would have loved to have talked with them or engaged with them, but you don't allow yourself to. And I'm curious about the tension. So you'd love to meet them and talk to them, but you're on a kind of mission. So how do you handle those conflicting feelings in yourself?
Well, it's a really great question, Jan. Jan, she was second from the left in the sibling photo. Very supportive siblings, as you can see. We're very connected, Jan. You know, it's interesting because I have always been an observer. I don't feel the need to go and talk to people. I mean, it might be hard to believe, but I'm actually incredibly shy and I have to work to make conversation and talk to people. It's a lot of practice. So the part of me that's shy is quite happy to just follow along behind them and take pictures and then disappear. I sort of slide in, take the photo and slide out again. But there are a number of people I've seen walking, some special couples. I have a photo that I took recently that may be in the next book, more holding hands, who knows, of a woman an older lady in a wheelchair, and I think it's two daughters. The older daughter is walking along beside holding her hand, and the other one's pushing the wheelchair. And I thought, I wonder what's going on and what this situation is, and wouldn't it be interesting? But I also feel very comfortable sort of giving people the dignity of their experience because it is intimate. I'm looking right at them and one of the most intimate connections, because really, who do you hold hands with? You hold hands with people you're really close to. And yes, there is some of a push-pull. The elderly ladies at the back of the book really got me. Like they're that one photo that I would have liked to know their stories. And interestingly enough, sidetracked for a second, I also have a ton of pictures of these two ladies walking along around in New York, and they always stop and look at things. They're older, they're white haired, they look similar. And at one point I actually did go up to them and I said, excuse me, I just have to ask you, are you two related? And they looked at me and they said, we're twins. And I said, I have pictures of you because I've been following along behind you, seeing how connected you are. They stop and point at buildings and talk to each other. And they said, we live together. We've been best friends our whole lives. They were not holding hands. Otherwise they would have been in the book. But it was, and that was one of the very few times I went up and spoke to them because I felt so inspired to find out who they were. Thank you, Jan.
Thanks.
I'd like to, this is Mike Kane. I'd like to make a comment. First of all, I want to hand it to you by getting your finger on the pulse of this subject. But also, I have also noticed in certain couples that actually holding hands is quite intimate versus physical relations. And that also starts a lot of relations just by touching. So I wanted to say, I thought that was really great what you're doing.
Thank you. I will.
This is
Yes.
Shelley Reed. I have a question for Diane and a comment to follow up on Jan's comment about, connecting with photographs. I just have to say that Diane is my best friend. We giggle about the fact that the photo of the elderly ladies might be us in the future. But having said that, I think that one of the great takeaways from this book that Diane, you've gifted us with is that we all can look at those photographs and we can imagine a feeling we might have had or a feeling we currently have. And by way of that projection, so to speak, I find that's the healing part of it. So my little analysis of the psychology of it, I'm sure you'll learn more when you go to the University of Virginia, but I think that's the great gift of the book. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Shelley.
Ali has a comment.
Diane, this is fantastic. Your book showed me a new way of communicating with someone who I love. So it is so great. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. I can make one quick comment because somebody asked me, did you ever take this book to a publisher or try and get an agent? And I did. And what came back was really interesting. And as you can see, it didn't stop me. So what happened was it went to a couple of agents and the response I got back from two of them was the same thing. They literally said, I wouldn't know what to do with it. And what that means is what is it? It's not a novel. It's not, it's not a guidebook. It's not a nonfiction book. It's a nonfiction book, but it's a photo book. And where would I shelve it? In a bookstore. That's what somebody said to me. So, that was really interesting. And I sent it directly to a publisher where I thought it would be a great fit for them. Of course, what do I know? And she wrote me, the head publisher wrote me a lovely note and said, I love the photos. I appreciate all the work you did. Thank you for sending it to me. And you know what's coming next. However, I don't understand why you would take photos of people from the back. And I thought, okay, that's fine because I know how I feel when I take them. It's not a fit for them. That's fine. A senior editor at one of the big houses wrote me a note and said she absolutely loves it and she's going to send it on to their paperback arm to have a look at. And meanwhile, that was so many months ago that I went ahead and finished the book and printed copies. And before I knew it, it was up on Amazon. So there it is. And, this is not in an egotistical one of a kind way, but it's a one of a kind way because I often do things my own way, and this is it. I took pictures this way, and I want to tell this story, and I'm so passionate about it and helping people feel better. And a portion of the proceeds are going to the wonderful Hope for Depression Research Foundation in New York, and that means so much to me because I so want to help fight depression and the stigma, and I so know what it can mean to feel even a little bit better. So thank you.
Yes, indeed.
I'd like to make a comment if we're still in that time. Thank you, Di. This was beautiful. I just was on the verge of tears. And what I was thinking was, for me, this would belong in the spiritual section of a bookstore because I felt so deeply touched just to my core with many of the photos and hearing you explain about where you were at when you took them. But my question is, when you're sitting somewhere and you see people holding hands, do you head out to take their photo more because they're holding hands, or is there an inner impulse or connection that you feel that gets you up out of your chair to go to that particular couple?
That's a really good question, Jude. Jude is another one of my siblings. She was on the right-hand side of the sibling photo. Oftentimes, everybody who knows me, who's ever been with me anywhere, has had me run away from them or get up from the table to go take a photo. What happens usually is I see a couple holding hands, and if there's a big crowd everywhere, I might not get up. But if I see there's a possibility that there might be some space around them, I jump up. And as they're walking, I sort of get up instinctively now to take a photo. And I was out at dinner with my editor and cherish my wonderful colleague, assistant, helper. And a couple of people, at one point I did, excuse me, guys, got up to take a photo. But the sense of, oh, there's an older couple. Oh, look how they're holding hands, and there's a purse and there's a dog. That's great. So yes, most of the time I just jump up and I try the photo anyway, because I'm surprised sometimes when some work when I thought they wouldn't. But there are times when I realize this one's going to work, this one isn't going to work. And it is mostly an instinct and an impulse. And by now it's actually a habit after, 6 years of taking photos all the time when I'm out. I don't know if that answered your question. And it does feel spiritual to me also, by the way. Somebody wrote me a note and said they keep the book on their bedside table and look at it before they go to sleep. So it sort of calms them down and raises their mood, which I thought was amazing.
Me too. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Well, if not, I would like to say thank you, a big hand to our speaker of the day, Diane Conn and family. Thank you for... Thank you for bringing so many people in with us and sharing with us such a beautiful and moving story. I clearly, and I know you know this, you've created something that really people can relate so powerfully to. What a wonderful start to our day.